We'll kiss the championship goodbye.
Heading into the semi-final again, and top two so crucial for your chances to go to the major. And Dire Wolves, well, two of those players also haven't been to LAN, and Walcott, he was saying it yesterday, hasn't got a single win on the world stage, so they're hungry for that first dub over in Sweden.
It'd be interesting to see them get there, but first, they got to get through this first series. Back and forth here, 20 seconds into this one. We've got Dire Wolves in the orange and Renegades in the blue. Like we mentioned, it is a best of 7, so probably a pretty methodical first game here. I have a feeling that's going to take a while before we see those pop-off players. That's something we've seen out of Fiber and out of Misty in particular, is that it takes them a little while, but once they do get into their rhythm, they are rather impressive players to watch.
And it used to take Renegades forever to get into their first game too, but now with Fever playing a much more defensive role, a third man role, a very, as you can see, shadow-based role, they seem a lot more solid in game one, but it doesn't matter. Walcott coming out with the first goal.
Well, if it's going to take you a little while for your teammates to start popping off, might as well do it yourself. Walcott dismantling the defense here. That's a heck of a way to put Dire Wolves on the board early.
And some hesitancy there too. We saw Fever go for that shadow roll and they didn't know when to challenge. And in the end, both of Renegades going at the same time. But I really like seeing that from Walcott. And it might be another good one. CJ on the quick reply with the passing coming out from Renegades.
We saw this a lot of Renegades yesterday. They like these infield passes that develop out from midfield here, and CJ usually the recipient of those passes. Not surprised to see him on the scoring again here, but again for Renegades, they kind of just need to keep this consistency up. Yes, they got an early goal, but Yummy, they need to get a lot more if they want to try and take down Dire Wolves.
It is a good start though, and that's that kind of signature move off the wall, getting the extra touch over a midfielder to be a pass. That came in because of Ground Zero last season being so successful from it, and people always emulate the top team style, especially if they are dominating a region.
Now, you've seen a lot of emulation of Ground Zero throughout OCE, and a lot of just these passing plays becoming the norm for these teams. Before this, we saw a lot of different strategies in the bubble scene. We've seen this one now twice, though. Again, another passing play, and who else but CJ to put it on target?
How are you going to assume that Fever's not going to take a banger right there? But so smart to get that across to CJ. CJ, you always worry about him hitting the crossbar with that one, but he finds his home. He's had a little talk with the ball before the match, obviously, and it's not going to miss this time.
I've learned my lesson. Yesterday, I tried to compliment CJ's shooting, and before I could even get it out of my mouth, Formal told me not to do that. So I'll stay hesitant for now. 2 good shots to start off the game, but let's see if CJ can keep up that consistency. We're also going to have to try and keep up the offense here, broken out from midfield, but it's not that surprising. 2 minutes into this game, we're going to start to see a little bit more back and forth. A couple of awry goals for the first 2 minutes, but I think we're starting to really see these players get a lot more developed.
Not too many solo plays coming out from Dire Wolves, and that's going to even leave their net open. Kami, one end to the other, defensive passing play and a counterattack on a team that doesn't usually have their net open.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising to see as well. Walcott just, I guess, a little bit lackadaisical on the comeback there, and unfortunately, it's going to lead them to a 2-goal deficit. Dire Wolves not playing poorly here, but they're starting to allow a lot of pressure out of Renegades.
Well, we see a lot of goals from Dire Wolves off individual plays that come from Fiber, who's so good at being able to beat 2 players with 1 dribble, or Walcott, whose ground game has become one of the best in the region. But okay, Renegades, they're connecting so fast, there's not even time to react for Dire Wolves.
Dire Wolves are just trying to warm up and get their offense together, and they're doing so by trying to get a little bit aggressive, but apparently that's not how you want to play against Renegades here. Yes, they're a team that can get some nice passing plays off, but usually it takes them a game or two. But this time, no slowdown whatsoever. 4 goals before halftime. That's rather impressive.
And this is actually signs that Renegades are able to play under the pressure. Very difficult usually to go for all these passes, especially in that situation where there was a Dire Wolves member in a position ready for it and reading it. And despite the fact that they knew that Renegades were going for that pass, they still weren't fast enough to beat them.
And not quite fast enough here. But again, it's only game number 1. We've got a little bit of time for these two teams to develop. And for Direwolves, excuse me, not Renegades, I say it's a little bit more important for them. They're a team that do like to take a slow start, like to develop themselves and get that offense together. And to be honest, they also kind of just take turns being that pop-off player. You'll see it from Misty one game, Fiber the next. So we'll see if they can find someone to pop off here. But if they don't in the next 2 minutes, they're unfortunately going to take the loss.
Especially when Walcott was having his, I guess, magical part of last season on Riot Gaming. They always lost game 1, and then he brought it back with a lot of demos in game 2 and played more aggressively. And maybe we'll see a little bit of that in these high pressure situations from Direwolves.
Well, they're going to need to try and find that because, unfortunately, game 1 is very much getting out of hand very quickly here. 90 seconds left or so, and they are down by 4. And Renegades, honestly, this has more just been a highlight reel for them than it has been a poor display out of Direwolves. Direwolves aren't playing badly in this one, Yummy. It's just that Renegades cannot seem to be stopped on offense.
And Ground Zero kind of led the region last season too by being the ones to not miss the open nets, or not miss the nets when there were defenders and always hit their targets. There hasn't really been a shot in this game from Renegades that has been off course whatsoever.
Just a huge difference for CJ. Like we mentioned, he's got a little bit of a reputation for not always being able to hit those open nets, and the fact that he's now had multiple games here in game number, or goal, excuse me, in game number 1, a massive improvement for the team. Really does show that they've got the resiliency and the consistency here to try and carry themselves. Oh my word, and CJ really going for the goals right now. Shot out for midfield, and I gotta admit, Renegades beyond impressing me to start the series.
And that corner touch was good too, because it's led to 2 Direwolves members having to use their boost. Although Fiber on the ball, you have to respect him, and you could see all of the Renegades members playing further back, willing to just hold the defense for now. And a quick intercept from CJ should be able to secure this game. 30 seconds left. What a great game 1.
It's been a fantastic game out of Renegades, but I think now it's all eyes on Direwolves. Like we mentioned coming into this one, they're obviously the underdogs, but they're a team that are supposed to be pretty capable against a team like Renegades. So where's that capability? Where's that ability to really give a run for their money? We're going to have to find out. Direwolves obviously not going to be able to take this first game, but I have high hopes. I think they can still give us a banger of a series.
I had extremely high hopes after I saw that from Walcott, because he was doing so much work in the past when he was getting dribble plays, and if Fiber and Misty are also doing the same thing, they are an unstoppable team. Unfortunately, in this first game, Misty, Fiber, slow starts for them mechanically. They're going to need to pick it up for game number 2.
And you can really see the difference between the two teams here in terms of the offensive efficiency in the shot totals. 12 for Renegades, each player taking 4. Meanwhile, Direwolves, their number 1 shooter is Fiber at 3 shots total. So it's one of these things where it just kind of felt like Renegades had a game plan coming into this one. They used all 3 of their players effectively, while Direwolves just kind of took a second for each one of the players to warm up.
And surprising that all 3 members of the Renegades really felt in form, and like Jake was saying, it was almost a boring game for them in that they didn't go for highlight plays. We didn't see Fever go for a triple tap. We didn't see Kami looking for that double flip reset. They were just so clean with their gameplay that it was too fast for Direwolves to deal with.
And that's kind of the thing for Direwolves, is that they need to try and up their pace of play just overall. It feels like this team is very capable, and they can battle against Renegades when it comes to the speed. They just didn't really display that in game number 1. So hopefully game number 2, they're a little bit more warmed up and they're a little bit more into this one, because I fear that it's just taking them a second to wake up. And if they take too long to wake up, they might just let Renegades run away with this thing.
Yeah, a couple of goals from the Renegades, exactly the same. Just pure passing out of defense. I wouldn't even call it a counterattack. It was just that Direwolves started getting more desperate for the goals, and Renegades very, very strong at taking that one down. Into this next game though, game number 2. And Direwolves, we know we can get so much more out of them. It's just whether they're going to have the room to against Renegades.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We've got high expectations for this team, and for a good reason, but like you said, they have to start developing some space for themselves. I think a lot of that's going to be the aggression as well. They don't really seem to be going to the ball all that quickly. I think part of that is the fact that they're worried Renegades are going to continue to counterattack them, but lads, now is not the time to start getting hesitant and second guess yourself. You need to throw everything at Renegades and start getting some momentum.
And good from Fever to be able to go in on that ball, not just shadow the entire way. It's actually given possession back to Renegades in this second game, and a miss is not going to help them out. This is almost a shot on from Walcott. Direwolves they've actually spent the first 40 seconds in a roughly good position in the attacking side, but we've seen how roughly it can turn away the other end.
That's the thing about Renegades right now. They are so quick to turn anything into an offense. I mean, look at that. Within the blink of an eye, they're already onto their opponent's half and are starting to get an offense together. But Direwolves starting to look like they can do the exact same thing. These booming clears are a little bit more effective, and they're really working as a trio a lot better here in this first minute. That being said, they still don't have a goal, so they've got to be careful. If they concede one against Renegades early, that is not going to help out their chances.
They've maintained good boost, but Direwolves on defense where it's difficult, they've actually kept taking their own corner boost. Very crucial, but it's not going to be enough. Infield to finish this one off, and Kavi finds the top.
I mean, what else but an infield pass out of the Renegades here? Fever, though, beautiful touch off the wall. Got to give credit where it's due. And Renegades, honestly, we got to give credit for everything they're doing right now. Fantastic gameplay, and they just seem to have Direwolves' number.
It really feels like poetry at the moment for Renegades. We're seeing kind of rhyming structures between Game 1 and Game 2. That pass from the wall back into center. In Game 1, we had a couple of quick counter plays in the defensive half that led to goals. And, you know, sometimes you write a poem that's terrible. This time, it's looking really good here for the Renegades.
Yeah, they seem to have poetry in motion right now here. Renegades, fantastic plays all around. Oh, my word. And you were mentioning this earlier. They're not really missing their shots either. Not all of the shots are going into the back of the net, but the fact of the matter is they're just threatening. And that's what's making Direwolves the most uncomfortable on defense right now, is that they just don't ever seem to find that boost, get out of their half cleanly enough before Renegades sneak in another shot. And if that constant pressure is there, eventually you're going to crack. So Direwolves have got to start getting out of their half a little bit more efficiently here, Yummy. It feels like they're spending way too much time on their back heel.
Very difficult. Renegades are so good at pinning teams in and draining away the boost. That's where Direwolves are in a good spot, but then they're finishing these passes really nicely. Misty finds the intercept though, and that's going to be tough. Great save by Fever. And Renegades, they hold off everything from Direwolves.
All right, so Renegades basically spend about 7 minutes on offense, and then the first time we see them have to play some defense, and they just completely annihilate it. Fantastic job from Renegades on both halves, and this is that consistency that we were talking about. They've been struggling to show that in RLCS X, but now they get, oh my word, the 21-22, and they're doing stuff like that. CJ just can't seem to miss a goal right now.
I mean, he should have missed this. It was sponged up against the backboard, and he managed to squish it through into the top of the net.
That just shouldn't happen. What's up with these angles off the backboard, by the way? We got a pancake goal yesterday that was absolutely spectacular. Now CJ slamming it off the bar and in. I mean, listen, Renegades, you guys look like you're in top form, and that really just makes me worried for Direwolves. I have no idea what they're going to do to try and adjust right now, Yummy.
Maybe it's Coach Lachlan Parker 9 coming in to have a huge effect on this team, because they've never looked this good at the start of any series. Even a series where they've warmed up for, even a second series of the day, I've not seen them look half this good.
They just look so consistent, so clean. They're just, I can't insult them in any way, shape, or form. I've got no criticisms for the team right now.
I believe in you. You can do it, mate.
I mean, listen, if I tried my hardest, I might be able to find a couple, but really, that's the thing. Renegades just look so clean, and that's why I like this gameplay out of them. It doesn't look panicked. It doesn't look, nervous. It just looks like Renegades are here to win.
Well, they've come here with so much confidence, and nothing seems to be able to bring them down. Direwolves are starting to feel a bit desperate, really pushing people forward. We've seen a few misses as they've extended their mechanics beyond what is even humanly possible, and they just haven't had opportunities because of that. And what's that from Fever? That's not even like a shot or anything, but he gets a flick straight past two members of the Direwolves defense, and that prevents them from getting a counterattack.
Again, it just feels like Direwolves have this edge that they can't get past right now. It's just this little hill that they keep trying to climb up, and every time they get to the top, they tumble right back on down. And that's due to Renegades. They're kind of just standing at the top of the hill, guarding it with their lives. It is such a difficult position for Direwolves because it feels like they need to do two things. One, they need to get their aggression up, and two, they need to slow down Renegades' aggression. It's a double-edged sword that neither one of the edges is going to be dull.
Man, I know a lot of teams have talked about how frustrating it is to play against Riot Gaming, Tango and Kaka seemingly saving everything. But we're seeing that from Renegades this season too. Fever and Kami just seem to be the same frustrating couple of players. This should be a goal though. Oh no, again it's Fever! He doesn't manage to get the follow-up though. Misty sneaks at bottom left.
You're talking about Fever being that solid third earlier, and boy, oh boy, are they proving it right now. The scary thing about this one is, though, Yummy, there's actually a chance here. Direwolves literally just need a solid kickoff, and there is potential for an overtime. That would be huge for this team that has been lacking momentum.
Only 2 seconds. It's going to be very difficult for this to go Direwolves' way, and yeah, that'll hit the ground. And I would say that one goal coming out from Dials, a bit of fortune required as Walcott went for the miracle dunk right in front of Fever, and it managed to pan out in their direction. But Renegades at the moment, every single one of their goals seem well thought out and planned.
It's very methodical. I really like the way that they are playing right now. And you can sort of notice why the methodical plays are working, because they're spreading it amongst all of the players well. Obviously, Fever has got a little bit more of the defensive stats, but they're still sneaking in 2 shots while letting Kami and CJ get 7 between the 2 of them. So it's one of these things where, again, all 3 players are effectively playing here, and that's what makes it the most difficult. For a team like Direwolves, who usually kind of needs someone to pop off to win a game, when your entire other team is kind of just all doing that, it's going to be really hard.
And normally we see Fever be that pop-off player for Renegades in terms of he's consistently so good. He hasn't really needed to look like the most amazing player on the pitch. CJ looking very consistent. His touches seem great all around. Kami is always consistent, and that's just leading to a very comfortable looking Renegades, as opposed to Direwolves, who are sending a person to the ball. Fiber's trying to do a little bit too much, a little bit more than necessary, and I think that breaks down the team a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. I say this a lot, to the point where probably by the end of the split you're going to be annoyed with this phrase, but the fundamentals are the fundamentals for a reason. When you play Rocket League, there are certain things that you kind of have to go for that are just simple and straightforward. When you try to go and deviate from that and try to play a little bit too fancy, all you really do is leave your team exposed. And for a team that got cross-court countered, 3 times already in this series, you really can't be overexposing yourself.
That's the hardest part for Direwolves if they're getting behind in these games, like we saw in that one. You could have that tendency to go more aggressive to try and make the comeback, but it feels like Renegades will punish you even harder if you do that.
Yeah, they're just doing such a good job at exploiting those little issues on the back end. And, well, now it's time for Direwolves to figure out how to avoid that at all costs, because, Yummy, I've got faith in Direwolves. We've been talking about how they're going to give a good run for their money against Renegades all day. They go down by 3 games. I don't know if they've got what it takes to reverse sweep.
I know I called out before that we might see some more demos coming out from Walcott, and it's usually a kind of case-by-case basis whether we see it happen. We need to see that happen right now, because the main thing that I feel like Direwolves need to do to win is to prevent Renegades from feeling as comfortable. And there we already see our first demo. It's going to start breaking down their rotations. It's going to start making them panic. And even right now, Fever in an awkward position, but Walcott's shot was so soft that it was able to get back for the Renegades.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. It's something we actually did see a little bit out of Direwolves yesterday, was this offensive pressure that led to lackluster shots. It's why they kind of had some trouble against the Rancid Rats, but I don't think it's something that's going to stay for a while. Now that we're starting to see Direwolves really throw themselves at offense, I have a feeling these shots are just going to increase from here on out. So far, first minute into this one, they definitely look like the more offensive team, though, Yummy.
Massive reaction time there from CJ as well to recover from his teammates' miss on the shot. And I think that might be the advantage of these games being at 5 p.m. That gives them a little bit more time to wake up here and get everything firing.
Let's hope that they can wake up here in this game, because I'd love to see both teams at their absolute peak and just a good slugging back and forth here. Again, we kind of need to see Direwolves come out on top if we want to see the series continue to go back and forth here, because if they go down by 3, it's a rather bleak situation. But hey, so far, 2 minutes into this one, they've held strong for now. If they can get this first goal, it would be absolutely monumental.
Hang on, I swear you said earlier, oh, it's 10 p.m. my time. I hope the first game's a 4-0 so that we can get to the next one quickly.
Hold on now. Let's not throw me under the bus like this, all right? Anything short is maybe going to be a little bit beneficial, but at the end of the day, what I'm looking for most is going to be good Rocket League. So let's hope we get to that game 7.
I'm also just reading it and doing a little bit more, so don't worry, guys. We are still looking towards that best of 7, and Direwolves are super capable of that too. I'm expecting them to have a very late resurgence. We saw that even against Rancid Rats, you know, a struggle in the early part of the series, and then they brought it back. And the fact that they've stayed at 0 goals each right here is good signs for the Direwolves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the big thing for Direwolves is that we know eventually they're going to start popping off and get into form. The question is sort of, do they do it too late? And that's the fear here is that they start to find their momentum, start to find that really good cohesion, but they do it by the time that they're down by 3 games. Then all of a sudden they have one off game. That's the end of the series. So we're hoping Direwolves can give us a little bit of a run for our money here in game 3. So far they have. We're over halfway through this one and neither team has scored a goal, which, to be honest, for Direwolves, that is a huge improvement.
It wouldn't even be an off game. You're 100% right. If you give Renegades too many match points in a row, they are going to take one because Fever will pop off in a game as well. Or even CJ has his pop-off games. They're so deadly in the attack, and that's going to be hard to defend 4 games in a row. But Direwolves have managed to do it for now, and they'll keep on the defense for the moment. But a mistouch from Walcott is going to be very dangerous as CJ also goes to the bum.
Kami, though, not really able to do much with it out in the corner. That's a little bit unfortunate because Direwolves looking a little bit exposed on the back end here. Good thing, though, is that Renegades still have got some pressure to run with, so let's see if they can punish late into this game. With 70 seconds left, we're basically at golden goal scenario. Considering that we have not had a goal throughout this game, the next one might be the last.
Oh, this is Misty. Is it time for Misty Peak? But it's not quite yet. But that was looking close. He's going for that flip reset. He's starting to find some confidence and maybe even some room. And a part of that was also gifted by CJ. He's missed a couple of balls in the last couple of minutes.
He's not necessarily looking as clinical as before. I'm not nervous for him thinking that he's playing poorly, but it's definitely one of these things where first game, you couldn't seem to slow down CJ. Now, Direwolves have got a little bit of a read on him and no longer nearly as successful on offense. I don't think to any fault of his own. It's more that the defense for Direwolves has really stepped up. It's going to have to stay strong for the next 30 seconds here because, again, we're down to that golden goal scenario. The next team that scores is most likely taking this one.
Huge credit to Misty as well, who's intercepting every pass from the Renegades. The strength of Renegades has always been that passing play, and Misty's preventing it from happening before it can. CJ can't find the angle. There's still an opportunity here for Kami. He hits the crossbar. That was the game right there. They might be seeing an overtime instead.
I can't believe it. That was the best chance we've seen all game. But Fever's got another one. Triple tap off the backboard from the flip reset.
Oh, that is a thing of beauty. Misty can't get after that one. Renegades with 2 seconds left. And that's what we were talking about. The Fever factor comes into the fore.
Oh, they really like those 2-second goals, huh? Direwolves last time scored it for themselves. This time they got scored upon with a 2-second goal, and unfortunately, it's now led to them being down 3-0 in the series. Again, really good game for Direwolves. The unfortunate truth, though, is it just kind of feels like they're taking too long to warm up right now, Yummy.
They're not being deadly at the other end. We did see one good opportunity coming out from Direwolves in that game. That's one. I mean, we're used to seeing a game where Fiber will double flip reset or hit that backboard, beat a couple of players, get a musty pass, as we saw him do yesterday, to open up that net against the best teams in OCE. He's not getting the time to do that against the Renegades. Misty is playing really well, but not in the area that we want him to, up in that forward half where he normally connects and plays that passing player and plays wide. I feel like he's the one most scared at the moment of pushing up too hard and opening up his own defense at the same time.
I really do think that sort of tentativeness that you're talking about here was just kind of because of that first game. Renegades really set the tone in that first game by punishing pretty much every single open net that was around. They're not necessarily doing that as much anymore here, but the fact that they did it for the first game was enough to scare Direwolves into playing a little bit more hesitantly. And now we're really seeing the effects. We're here going into game number 4. Direwolves still don't seem to have their full confidence, and if they don't find it in this next game, that's the end of the series.
I just love how Fever doesn't care about the goal because, well, he'll go into ranked against diamond players and go for better goals than that. CJ and Kami popping off, and then in reverse, when they win at the end of the game, Fever pops off, and the other two are like, yeah, another day in the office.
Another day in the office. I mean, that's kind of what Renegades have been all day here, though, is one of these things where it's like, yep, this is just another game. They're treating this one so incredibly confidently, and you can see it in the cams. Like you said, a little bit of celebration, but for the most part, those guys are dead stare straight on into their monitors. They're here to win, and they're acting like it.
And it's a tactical timeout for the Direwolves, but I feel like this is too late. Their coach Vive is going to be in comms, giving them the word. You can see the active listening from both Misty and Walcott. Heads down, ears tuned in to the coach. But I would have loved to see this after game 2. That was when it was going to be really instrumental in slowing down Renegades as much as helping Direwolves have a bit of time to reset themselves.
I think they played a risk here. I think what they did is they basically saw that, you know, Direwolves were starting to get the hang of it. They thought that in game 3, they'd give them a good enough run for their money that they'd get a game off. And well, up until about the 5-second mark, yeah, it looked like that was a very viable possibility. Then all of a sudden they take the loss and Vive goes, all right, now or never basically to take this timeout. And listen, I'm at least happy they took the timeout. These tactical timeouts in RLCS have been absolutely a fantastic addition. And I'm glad to see that Direwolves are using one.
They're getting ready for the next game as well, as this could be the final one. Renegades are on match point. We're going to have to see if Direwolves can claw back all the way in a reverse sweep best of 7. If you are new to Rocket League, that is a very, very rare circumstance to happen.
I mean, it's almost impossible. I'm not going to say that it's impossible, but usually if you do see a reverse sweep in a best of 7, it's with a team that's got at least a little bit momentum in their favor. Oh my gosh. And, well, I will say this. Usually the other team is dominating them, or not dominating them. Renegades were dominating them. They just missed an open net, though. So, maybe the tides have changed.
Well, we've seen that all the way back from the spring series from CJ. You have a wide open field. You've beaten everyone, and he just rushes the play a little bit and misses. And, well, that could have been the one that wins in the series, but for now, they're just going to laugh it off. And that's what Renegades are always good at doing.
I mean, they kind of need to laugh it off. This is not the time for Renegades to start, you know, tilting themselves out of this one. I'd be beyond surprised if they did that, but, you know, always got to have that possibility in the back of your mind. Now, speaking of possibilities, though, Fiber trying to go for a musty flick into an air dribble. No such luck in that one, but I like the ambition. If Direwolves are starting to feel confident enough to go for goals like that, it might be a different game for Direwolves.
Especially because Fiber is considered top 4 mechanically in the region. People give him that respect. So even when it fails, it usually succeeds just because people force themselves to back off expecting the musty to happen.
They hit some pretty insane shots yesterday. If you saw that top 3, there were a couple of plays with Fiber being involved. That being said, they haven't really found a lot of those plays just overall here today. Honestly, can't really think of one that we've seen out of Direwolves. Aside from an okay goal earlier in the series, they haven't had a lot of good momentum. Oh my word, they almost make me eat my words with that one. Kami, luckily enough, will make the save, but Direwolves definitely looking a lot more confident on offense right now.
Yeah, especially as CJ missing a couple of these ones, so Direwolves now have a chance. And it'll be interesting to see if they go for the pressure, they go for the bumps or the wide rotations. No, they're going to play very aggressive, and it's going to work. Misty coming from crossfield to get this goal.
There we go. Direwolves finally get themselves the lead here. I don't think they've had the lead throughout this series at all, so this is rather crucial in game 4. Now it opens the door for that reverse sweep. It's, again, still rather unlikely, but it is possible, Yummy.
And Misty there as well, working well with Fiber. Trying to get into a wide position, as we talked about earlier on, be in a spot where they can come out of a blind spot. Misty was not seen until the very last second, and the defense were playing for Fiber's shot, not his.
Yeah, this is a really, really different Direwolves right now. They look methodical, they look aggressive, they look like they can actually take down Renegades. And again, this is what we were talking about earlier. We knew this would eventually come. This Direwolves team that look effective, that shoot effectively, and just, oh my word, really put the pressure on Renegades. The question was more, was it going to arrive too late here? Because yes, they do have the lead here in game 4, but they've now got to take 4 straight if they want to take this one. Oh my word, and they still need to take game 4 as well. There's those infield passes, and there's another CJ goal.
And CJ making up for his earlier one. That was pitch perfect in this on top left corner, as fast as you want it. Man, Renegades, they could have even had a second or a third goal right now. So Direwolves still finding themselves under the pump.
Oh, this is not good for Direwolves here. They needed all the momentum in their favor here, it feels like, at this point. It's not just so we need to sort of, you know, beat them in this game. No, they needed to completely decimate them and then kind of take that momentum into the next couple of games. They've got me nervous right now. There's still absolutely a chance for them to win this game, but they need to do more than win. Like I said, they need to dominate.
Direwolves Again, they are a new team. They're lower expectations. It's not going to be the end of the world, as they've already made the top 4. And it looks like Renegades are so hungry for this major, not for just one reason of the land, but also because they've had some really bad RLCSs. The last 2 RLCSs underperforming heavily. Now's their time to go the other way. A double flip reset there from Firebar. Unfortunately, even though it was a double flip reset, he didn't create much of a change angle.
That would have been fantastic to see it at least succeed, though. Even if they just dunked to finish it off, it would have been beautiful. Unfortunate for Direwolves, but honestly, the more unfortunate thing is the fact that they're still tied with only about a minute left. Like we've mentioned many times, they need the win here right now, and going into this final minute with the Renegades that are looking stronger than the first half of this game does not bode well. Good thing for them, though, is that they do... Oh, I thought we're going to have a little bit of offense there. No, some bumps are going to change that one up, and... Oh, this is an awkward defense. Renegades now have a chance. Pass down. Kami not going to get the shot, though. Walcott with a fantastic save, and that might just save them the game overall.
Once again, Direwolves knowing that these passes are Renegade's biggest weapon. Getting in the way. Fever is a couple of times in a row here on low boost. Just let that ball bounce off the backboard. Very dangerous against the Direwolves, but is saved out again right on the line. CJ coming up clutch in the defense. That was very close to a Direwolves victory, and now with 15 seconds left, whoever gets the next goal will win.
100%. The question is whether or not Direwolves can pull this one out. They've got a chance here. Popped out of the corner, though, and it looks like that chance is gone, but it's up to Misty now out at midfield. Try and keep this one alive. Uses the butt of their car to do so, and it will stay up. Probably not in the best way possible, though, because now it's Renegades going the other way. Smart to spike it down. Direwolves wanted nothing to do with that last-second goal. Instead, we go to overtime, and it truly now is golden goal scenario.
Every game getting closer and closer between these two teams. You feel like if Direwolves could take it, maybe they can even extend that further in the next one as the pass comes out from the Renegades, attempting an early goal. And that's usually where we do see it in those overtimes, but it feels like it's going to go for a while just yet.
I'd love to see another long overtime here. I mean, probably the players aren't exactly looking for that one. Renegades in particular are probably just looking to try and close this one out in 4 pretty quickly. But we saw, what was it, an 8-minute overtime yesterday? Yeah. Absolutely insane. Oh boy, I was about to say it might not happen if Kami gets a shot there. But hey, let's see if these guys can at least try to match the record or something similar. RLCS 21-22 seems to have that type of vibe.
And a passing play out from Renegades. You can't keep them in the defense for too long, so Direwolves will hopefully be looking for that one big play. Fiber attempts to beat Fever. As a ones player himself, Fever knows how to deal with those. And CJ's also got a good challenge off. You can see Direwolves attempting these solo plays, these slow plays in the midfield, but Renegades have shut down every single one.
Yeah, Renegades doing a really good job on defense here, just getting everything intercepted, and that's something we were complimentary of them earlier. Now it's time for them to continue doing that, though, because again, Direwolves feel like they are back in form, and it feels like both of these teams, you make a mistake on defense, someone is going to punish. The pace of play has upped itself pretty significantly, and thus we've got a really tense back and forth.
Well, at least up for Renegades trying to get these counterattacks, but Direwolves opting for a lot of dribbles at the moment, or quick air plays back to each other, or back to themselves, more notably as CJ looking for the corner read. Renegades starting to put down the clamps here. We're looking to take the boost away, but as per usual, Direwolves maintaining 100 boost across the board. Boost management being a real winner in this overtime as Fever goes for the flick. It is on target, but Walcott will get it away.
I like that Direwolves are at least showing their defensive prowess here. They still do look a little bit more comfortable on offense, but overall, they are actually withstanding this Renegades offense, something they really couldn't do in the first couple of games here. So, unfortunately, it doesn't really look like they're going to get a break from said Renegades offense as they are back on again, and Fever is trying to get the weirdest angle I've ever seen. CJ will get a follow-up shot, but it's not necessarily going to do much. But Renegades, like you mentioned before, this lockdown out at midfield is slow burning against Direwolves, and this actually could be an issue for them because Fiber's going to die for that one. Walcott, not the greatest clear, and CJ just elects to kind of control this one. Bumps their teammate out of the way as well, and, well, Renegades had a chance to expose them. Not quite able to do so.
Yeah, such an odd bunch of plays there from the defense from Direwolves. Everyone was all in the same spot, and now there's a bit of an opening. CJ dunked out by Fiber, so no goal just yet.
Not quite yet, but again, Renegades have spent, I want to say, over a minute now in the Direwolves half. Finally, Direwolves break out of their half, and they at least get an offense together. No, very short-lived, and what else would a pass? Kami, shot on target, and that will go in. Renegades open up the game, open up the series with a passing play, and they finished with one as well.
A 4-0 series to win the semi-final, to take them to the first ever grand final of RLCS 21-22. A massive performance here from the Renegades, strong from start to finish, and it feels like Direwolves, well, they're going to go home and lick their wounds, but they've performed admirably throughout this tournament so far.
They played fantastic, and again, this is only regional number 1. We've still got another 2 of them in this split, and I expect them to come back with some ferocity, especially considering, like we said, this is a 4-0 sweep. This was not the expected outcome. We all had Renegades pick to win this one. We picked literally the entire desk picked them to take it. But, I mean, listen, I'll be the first one to admit it. 4-0 wasn't even a thought in my mind in this series.
A strong one as well from Jake start to end. I'm sure you're impressed, right?
Yeah, it's really a new Renegades here. They just look so solid. No overcommits almost the entire series. Just amazing pressure, just wearing down Direwolves and just shutting out Direwolves from any kind of offense.
I mean, that's been the Fever difference, right? No more overcommits, a very defensive player, and that's led to a breath of fresh air when it comes to Renegades. Games where it doesn't feel like anything could happen. It really feels a lot more controlled.
I mean, this whole series felt controlled by Renegades. That's the crazy thing about it, is that we mentioned this before. Renegades sometimes take a second to get into a series. They didn't do that here. They came out the gate swinging. They continue to do it throughout the series and never let up. Even when Direwolves did start to find some momentum in their favor and really started to become a competitive team, they still just looked that strong. Whether it was defense or offense, both, Renegades controlled this series.
Yeah, Renegades starting out strong, looking really solid, hitting their shots. CJ missing a few, but that's okay. And yeah, it's just, it's got to be disappointing for Direwolves. They brought in Walcott. We haven't really seen that effect in like offense though. We didn't see demos. We didn't see him pushing up, making those big plays. And I think Direwolves have a lot to think about going into the next regional.
It was very interesting seeing Renegades in game 1 though, scoring every single one of their shots. Jake, that all of our LCSX, that's all we ever wanted.
Yeah, and it goes to show like Renegades, they've never truly performed what we feel like their peak has been, right? They've always kind of like underperformed to expectations, but right now it feels like they're overperforming to expectations, because I was expecting great, but they're looking great and solid at the same time, and I don't think anyone was expecting the solid.
Well, we have seen Fever throughout the weekend making massive plays, and let's see what he has to say about this match. Fever, congratulations, and first off, what a brilliant goal. Were you excited about the flip reset off the backboard?
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, it was okay. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think we saw from your perspective, we saw your cam and you're like, that's a regular day. I know CJ and Kami are excited about it.
Oh, they were hyped, yeah. They were screaming.
You gotta love it. You gotta love the good energy amongst the 3 of you guys. And honestly, that's kind of what has separated you guys, in my opinion, from a lot of the other teams here today. You saw it from the cameras, basically. You guys came into this one ready to play. Typically, you guys have had a little bit of warm-up time. The first game, a little bit of time to, sort of find your flow. What was the difference here today? Because you guys did not need to find your flow. You came in with it and just continued with it throughout that series.
I think our confidence has peaked. We're going into this so confident, and I think we even had a warm-up scrim. So, I think not only that, but I think our mental state really helped us drive this series with it was a clean sweep. I don't know.
Yeah, and Fever, you guys are looking really solid rotationally, especially ever since you joined the team. Those kind of like overcommits that were classic of Renegades have kind of gone away. Was that something you guys are looking more towards in the playstyle, especially working on it in the off-season?
Yeah, I think in the off-season, we were more focused on ourselves, because I think last season we were too focused on the opponents. So then we've been working on being solid, being defensive. We even tried a defensive playstyle for a bit, and then we tried ultra aggressive, and we've just found a perfect balance, and I think that's what's working out right now.
And I guess you guys have done enough to achieve for this weekend towards that major point. You've come top 2. However, would you be dissatisfied with the second place if you go to the grand final? Are you not going to be happy with anything but first?
I'm over the moon that we're top 2, so I don't care if we win or lose to ground 0. I'm just assuming so anyways.
Oh, it's just ground 0.
You never know, right? Could upset them. You never know. I hope so.
Good to hear. I'm glad to hear the confidence coming out from Fever. You've become a lot less shy than you used to, and you're on these interviews, and I'm sure we're going to see you a lot more. So good luck in the grand final, mate.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
He talked about confidence. He's confident on camera. He's confident in the game. His teammates are confident. And I started to speak a little bit more like Bass there, but...
come on.
Any mistake, it's because I'm copying Bass. Anything I do well, it's all on me. But yeah, huge confidence coming out from Renegades for what feels like the first time ever.
And Bass, you're on the Australian broadcast here, and you said something that you couldn't think of a single thing to criticize Renegades on. So we're pretty toxic down under. I'm really looking. What was some downsides to their play?
You're really gonna put me on the spot here with this one. I mean, listen, hey, I'm not afraid to get a little bit critical of a team. The reason it was difficult is because Renegades played pretty solid. I think we all know where I'm going to go with this one.
CJ.
Accuracy is still your best friend. CJ, you got to hit the open net because, yes, you did not get punished against Direwolves, but you're going to most likely be facing Ground Zero next. And if you do that against Ground Zero, they're going to punish you. Alternatively, if you don't face Ground Zero and you end up facing Riot, it means that Riot are quite literally peaking better than anyone else on the planet. So, yeah, you really need to hit those open nets.
However... big improvement from CJ. I think the first series I've ever seen him not score an own goal in. So claps all around
Good
for
job,
CJ. We love it.
Yeah, I'm still just very impressed with the solidness of Renegades. I think the grand final will be the real test though, because especially if they're up against Ground Zero really break down teams. So if Renegades can keep that style against them, it'll be an exciting grand final. And like you're saying, Bass, if Riot show up, they're going to be playing very well and going to be able to test Renegades as well.
I mean, that's the big thing here is that no matter who we have in this grand final, we're going to have an incredible grand final. The best of 3, best of 7 sets really lends itself to being a good grand final. Just hoping we don't see one team sort of dominate here because, well, we've already set the trend of that with a 4-0 from Renegades that I was not expecting against Direwolves. If Ground Zero does the same against Riot, I mean, at that point, there's something in the air, obviously.
I thought you were saying you wanted a quick grand final so you could go to bed. Anyway, let's go into the semi-final. Bass needs to go to sleep at some point, so we will head to that semi-final after this break.